Hello, Stitchy friends. How is everybody doing? Today is Tuesday, October 6th, 2025. This is Flosstube number 65, and my name is Andrew. This is my dog Winston, and you've stumbled upon The Runner Stitcher. This is my channel where I talk mostly about my cross-stitch journey, a little bit about running as well, and yeah, I hope you'll stick around. If you're new here, welcome. I am so glad you found the channel. I hope you enjoy what you see. I hope you like the projects, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me week after week and just kind of seeing what I've been up to. I know it's a lot to keep up with, and I've really enjoyed the weekly cadence. It feels like I get to have more of a conversation with you as the week goes by. But yeah, just thank you for spending some time with me. I do really appreciate that. This week has been a pretty good week. I think it's been a pretty normal life week in the sense that, you know, there's been some really good moments for me. There's been some lower moments for me. There's been some happy moments. There's been some sad moments. And what I'm learning in those moments is they are all part of life. And I'm learning how to sort of process those moments and really look for the joy in the moments that I do have. So all that being said, thank you so much for joining me in a roller coaster that we call life. You know, we're here to talk about stitching, but also it involves our lives, and we all go through a lot of things. And I think it's just important to stay positive and kind. So that's sort of what I've been focusing on this past week. That's been just a wild ride. So enough about that. I don't want to bore you with all my talk there, but yeah, just thank you for joining me. I really, really appreciate this community. It's really given me a place that I feel like I belong and that I'm able to connect with people, and that is just awesome. And I hope that's what this channel provides for you too, that you can feel connected to me, you can feel connected to the people who watch this channel, to the people in the comments, and you know, we can all sort of stitch together and enjoy this hobby so much without feeling like we're alone or we're not with anybody when we're doing it. Okay, let's move on to quick announcements. So the first thing is thank you so much to Carol and Annie who took advantage of the Buy Me a Coffee link this week. Thank you so much. I do really appreciate those kind gifts and the notes that you put with them. It really does mean a lot to me. So thank you so much, Carol and Annie, for the Buy Me a Coffee. I think that's the only sort of announcement I've got. So we're gonna just jump right into the stitching this time. And I've got a good amount of projects for you. I think about the same number as last week, but as always, we're going to start with the hashtag whip into shape. Actually, before we do that, so in total for the week, I was able to add in 3,728 stitches, which was another really solid stitching week for me. It's nice to be getting back to that sort of routine, and I do have kind of more time on my hands, and so stitching has been my comfort. So that's been a good thing. But anyway, 3,728 stitches for the week, and let's start talking about Whip into Shape. So Whip into Shape is the challenge that I created originally for the Australia Sydney Marathon. That didn't work out as planned, but I'm now gearing up to run the New York City Marathon on November 2nd. So we've got just about 4 weeks left of training, and this coming weekend, this coming Saturday will be my longest run. It will be the 20-mile run, and that one is always tough. And I always feel drained afterwards, and we'll see how it goes. But in a good positive note, the weather does look like it'll be really nice on Saturday for that run. This past weekend I had a 12-mile run, and I just really enjoyed it. The weather again was really lovely, and I really just enjoyed being out there and running. It wasn't that far of a distance for me, and yet I was able to just kind of relax in the run, and it was one of those runs that just felt really good. So I was happy about that. But in total, for just the training for the New York Marathon, since the Sydney Marathon didn't happen, just New York, we're talking, I ran 169 miles, which equates to about 1,690 stitches if you are stitching 10 stitches per mile that I run. And if you're stitching for time, that equates to 25 hours of running now. I just crossed the 25-hour mark this morning, actually, on today's run. And that's a lot. That's a lot of training again. So we'll keep going. My piece for Whip into Shape is the Fruits of Plenty from Modern Folk Embroidery, and I'll put a picture up here of what that is going to look like in the end, and I'll put a picture up here of what that looked like when I started the Whip into Shape challenge back in May. This piece has been so much fun to just see consistent progress on, and I'm still really loving it. This week I added 379 stitches, which puts me at 61.69%. And if you notice, I keep looking over here, that's where my notes are. So hope that's all right. But here is this piece now. So this is the Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. And I love it. It's looking so good. Let's zoom in a little bit on the part that I worked on this week. So this week I added in this section right here to sort of mirror this side. So I brought in all these vines and leaves here. I added in this heart as well. And all of that is the stitching that I did this week. Just those vines and leaves right in through there. So you can see that that all kind of mirrors the other side so that it's symmetrical. And I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, you probably already saw this, but I did take this piece to Central Park. I'll put a picture up here of what I was stitching on. I took it to Central Park and stitched in the park on Sunday on this piece. And I was working on my mile, or my stitching for my miles. And I was working on this section over here. Now I had a little bit done. I think I had this little berry done and maybe one of these leaves or something. But I had to start off of this berry, and in the park I started off and I counted and I did all this stitching for this part right here, and then I realized when I came down here that I was off next to this this center motif. And what I had done was on this berry right here, I had started one stitch too low and to the right. I could not believe it. So what did I do? I sat there in the park and I frogged all those stitches. I think it was about 150 stitches. And I thought, this is crazy. All the stitching I just did in the park, I have to take out. But I sat there and I did it. I took out the stitches. It was a beautiful day in the park, so I was able to enjoy the weather and just kind of be watching people as I was doing it. And then I thought I was going to put the piece away, but I decided, you know what? I'm going to keep it out and I'm going to stitch to where I was before. So I kept working on it, and I actually got 137 of those stitches back in, which included this part right in through here. And it is all correct now. So then yesterday I finished it up by adding in the rest of these vines down here, this cute little bird that's there. I think I added in the heart yesterday just to get in the rest of my stitches. So that is 379 stitches. Fruits of Plenty is stitched on a 32 count vintage smoky white linen from Swag Art. I'm using 2 DMC colors and 2 strands over 2 linen threads. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Fruits of Plenty this week. I know I've talked about this many times, and I do know what I'm putting in these center motifs now, so I just need to do that. But for some reason, the vines were calling to me this week, and if vines are calling to you, if the leaves are calling to you, you gotta do it when it's there. Because believe me, I'm not always in the mood for leaves and vines, so that was a good thing this week. Okay, next up, let's move on to my temperature stitching. And this week, typically I have 3 projects assigned to random numbers from 0 to 9, and whatever the second digit of the temperature is supposed to be for that day, I stitch on that project for 100 stitches. Now this week, there were only 2 projects called. So the first one we're gonna look at is Pop of Halloween, and this is by Bent Creek. I'll show what that looks like here. Hopefully there's not too much of a glare. I love this piece. This is so fun to stitch. It's super cute. It's stitched with pearl cottons, so it's a very large stitch in the sense that this is 20 count linen. We're still stitching over 2. So the thread is large, the holes are large. It's just a big piece, but really, really fun. This was called for 5 days worth of stitching, and I'm happy to say I put in 500 stitches on this piece. Now, I realized I had this in Markup RXP last week, and I told you I think I was at 20%. I realized there were a lot of extra stitches being counted that were not actually stitches. So I think I've got it correct now, and that means I'm now at 68.85%. So this is going to be a finish definitely before we reach the goal on this temperature stitching piece. I'm going to put a picture or a video up here of where I was when I started this week. Okay, here's my starting point for Pop of Halloween for the week. And it's just so cute. Look at the plaid. It just shows up so good in this camera. I just love that one so much. Anyway, this is my starting point. I will put another 500 stitches into this, so we should get a few more pops done, and you'll see it now. All right, and here's where I am now. Look how cute this is. So what did I work on this time? Well, I decided I was gonna come down here so that I could get to the post of the tree and the fence here. And the reason for that is I realized I don't think I wanna save all this black stitching for the very end. So I thought I was gonna at least just do half of the fence. Well, then once I got it started, I just kept going. So the fence is now complete here at the bottom, as is this, the trunk of the tree. But that meant I also got to add 2 more little pops. I added this one here and that cat in the center, which is just so cute. I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit so you can see the stitches a little better. This is all with the pearl cotton, and I think they're just really lovely. I think they really go with these kind of fun, whimsical pumpkin faces. And I just think this is so cute for Halloween and for this time of year. So super excited about it. Like I said, I'm at almost 70%. So I think I've got a few more of these pumpkins to go here. I also started adding in, if you can see here, some of these individual stitches right here. So there are individual stitches all throughout this. And I got basically all them done with the stitching that I already had completed. So those individual stitches are on their way as well. But I will keep working on this. This will keep coming out for temperature stitching, and you'll keep seeing it work towards its goal, which will actually be a finish. So that is very, very exciting. But I'm stitching with all the kit materials. So all the floss, all of the linen, everything that came with the kit. The other temperature piece that I'm working on is Celtic Autumn. This is from Lavender and Lace. And here is what this image is going to look like, except mine, there's a color conversion that I'm using. So it's not really gonna look like this, but you get the idea. This was called for 2 days of temperature stitching, and I was able, or not 2 days, yeah, 2 days, so 200 stitches. I was actually able to add in 379 stitches, which puts me at about 27%. I basically worked on this one night and got about 150 stitches in, and then I thought, well, I'm just gonna work on it a second evening to get to the 200, and I just worked on it that whole night and ended up getting over 300, which was great. So I will pop a video in here where I was when I started. All right, here's my starting point for Celtic Autumn for the week. This is called for 200 stitches. I'm gonna continue working here at the top of her dress, and we'll see how far I get. And here is where she is now. So what did I do this week? Basically, I added all of these kind of white tan stitches here. This is like the top of her, it's like her shawl that she's kind of wrapping her arms around. So that's basically what I worked on. I didn't do any of her hand. Her hand is over here somewhere, and I didn't work on that at all, but I basically filled in all of those sort of white stitches. So I'll zoom in here so you can kind of see the stitching closer up. But that's the section that I worked on. So it was fun, I liked it, but I didn't get into the colors. You know, the real fun of this is the oranges and the greens and the autumn colors. And this week, because I was just working on this shawl, it felt a little blah with just being white. However, I really do like the way it looks. You can see that there's a bunch of holes there in the stitching, and that will all be for beads. So the beads will come at the end when I do all of her beading, and yeah, we'll get her filled in. But really, really enjoying this. This is stitched on a 28 count light hazelnut from XJU Design. And I'm stitching with all the DMC and Petite Treasure braid, but just the color conversion that I've shared before in the past. So she's looking great. She's gonna keep coming out, I think, for temperature stitching, so you'll get to see more on her. But I really did enjoy it. Before we go any further, I did want to address, a lot of people have been asking about this stand that I have here that I've been sharing it's been in my videos the past couple weeks. This is a stand from Gus's Custom Creations on Facebook. He is based in Australia, and I ordered this back at the end of last year. I think it arrived shortly before Christmas to my old place, and I never set it up because I never really had a space to try it out, and we were kind of changing rooms and everything, so I just never set it out. But here in the new place, I thought, you know what, I'm going to use this. So I actually did get rid of my Lowry stand that I had and switched over to this. And I love this for all of my projects that are on scroll frames or Q-snaps. It kind of swivels right over, it's high enough that it swivels over this chair that I'm sitting in. This is my little stitchy spot in my new space. And it swivels over so I can stitch on things with 2 hands, and I can watch the TV, and it kind of all works out. So I will say though, and it is a beautiful stand. The craftsmanship is wonderful. The packaging of shipping it from all the way from Australia to me was perfect. Gus was very communicative during the whole process. It was really, really a simple process. And the only problem now is I don't think he's shipping to the US anymore due to all of the tariff increases that have been happening. So I think he did cut off shipping to the US, but definitely check out his Facebook page if you're interested in it. I'm sure you can get on a wait list, and hopefully eventually when those tariffs get resolved, he will start shipping again to the States. But that's where this is from if you are interested. All right, and the next piece I worked on was Stack of Pancakes. This is from SammyStitchesStore on Etsy. This is what it's going to look like there. And you may have noticed that this was in my temperature stitching. However, this was not called for any of the days for temperature stitching this week. But the reason I pulled this out, it was on my whip go for the month of October. The whip go number was to stitch 400 stitches on this piece. So I thought, this is kind of a perfect week. I don't have to work on it for temperature stitching, so I can get my whip go stitches in. So I pulled it out. I ended up getting 497 stitches, and that now puts me at 79.72%. So I will pop a video in here of where I was when I started. Here is my starting point for a stack of pancakes. I am going to start up here on the next diagonal. It begins all the way up here in these couple threads here. So I'm going to start working that diagonal and bring it down here. I don't think I'll get the whole thing done, but you will see how far I got. And here is where I am now. So get ready, because you're gonna be hungry, I'm sure. I always get hungry when I see this piece, but this is Stack of Pancakes. So what did I work on this time? Well, I basically filled in this whole entire next diagonal. So when I had to do 400 stitches, I didn't think it would get me all the way to the bottom of this diagonal, but I started up here and just kind of went down through it, and ended up that I got so close to the end of the diagonal, I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it and finish this one. So I came all the way down here to the very end and got the rest of those stitches in. Now you can see just how many parked threads there are, how many different shades of orange, how many stitches of confetti there are, and single stitches everywhere. But when you pull this back, the effect is just great. You really, really can see these pancakes coming to life now, and it really does make me hungry. Although the good thing is there's no calories in stitching pancakes. So you're fine there. But yeah, really, really enjoyed this. So that checks off one of my whip go goals for October already. And yeah, happy to have that completed. This will still keep coming out for temperature stitching for a little bit longer. And yeah, like I said, I'm almost at 80%. So I don't know if this will be a finish this year or not. Originally I said there's no reason it can't be finished in 2025. I don't know if you remember me saying that or not, but now that I'm working on it more, I really do like it in smaller chunks. And so I just don't want to rush to a finish just to get it done, but we'll see. Maybe it'll keep coming out little by little, or maybe it'll get called for another rotation and temperature stitching, and we'll just see where it gets to. But I am really, really enjoying this. So again, that is Stack of Pancakes from SammyStitchesStore on Etsy. And I'm stitching this on a 20 count black Aida, and I'm using 2 strands of DMC, all the called for DMC. Yeah, that's Stack of Pancakes. The next piece I worked on was Saga. This is from Long Dog Samplers. Here is what this is going to look like. It's this beautiful piece from Long Dog with all these different arches. And yeah, this is just a piece that I work on basically every week. You've seen it so many times, so you kind of know the gist, but I will put a picture in here. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to read you the next story, because we are now well into the next arch, and I'm going to read it to you. So, get ready. The story this week is called The Complaints Procedure. Here's what it says. Roadrunners are curious birds. They're high-speed ground cuckoos with long tails and a rather fetching crest. They symbolize magic and good luck. Their long legs whir as they zoom along, and they can rocket through scrubland at speeds in excess of 20 miles per hour downhill with the wind behind them. If you're into performing bird impressions as your party piece, just hold your nose and say, meep, beep. It's a real crowd pleaser, and no one will mistake it for a robin. There's all sorts of folklore and superstition associated with these friendly birds. The old pioneers believed that roadrunners would lead them back to the trail if they lost their way. The Mexicans called them amigo, And they even replaced the stork in some cultures as the bringer of babies, express delivery guaranteed. They even leave distinctive X-shaped footprints, which means they instantly qualify for a place in the Long Dog Saga stories. So here's the story. Albert Ferrari is a roadrunner, and Albert Ferrari is a roadrunner, and he's seen here saying boo to Maitre D, the goose, in a very heated dispute, which seems to be drawing quite a crowd of onlookers. Albert had booked the 2 yurts for a family holiday months in advance, only to discover upon arrival that they had been double booked by a colony of rabbits who traveled down from Canada for a family reunion. It's inevitable that Albert will come out on top in this dispute and that the bunnies will be told to hop it on, because no one ever gets one over on an angry bird that can kill a rattlesnake, not even a wily old gander like Maitre D. So this week we have a story of Albert, the roadrunner, who is upset because his yurts are taken that he had reserved. So let's go ahead. Now I'll pop in the video where I was when I started this week. Here is my starting point for Saga for the week. I am first going to complete this tent. That will be the first place I go. And then I'll just keep stitching in here, in the arch, and we'll see how far I can get. And here is where I got to in this latest arch. So this is Saga. This is stitched on a 36 count Vintage Country Mocha. I'm using Silks for You PR207, 1 strand of silk over 2 linen threads. That is the whole piece so far. And when I get down to this next arch, it's going to be hard to fit this whole piece in the camera, I think. But okay, let's zoom in a little bit now on where I worked at. So this is the arch I'm working on, and these are the yurts. And you can see here, this yurt has now been completed, and you can see this little bunny sitting inside the yurt there. Isn't that funny? So that bunny is taking the reservation of the roadrunner. Now you'll notice that there is no roadrunner and there is no goose yet. That's because the roadrunner comes in right here. His tail like stretches out down past this part right here, and then the goose is next to him right here. So that will probably be starting to be added in next week. Next week I will finish this yurt, and you'll see another bunny very similar to this one. And I think there's another animal sitting on this side, maybe a bird or two that are kind of watching. I do think this is an ant that is kind of looking on and watching the drama unfold of the complaints procedure. But yeah, this is a very fun arch, and that's where I got to. I was able to add 570 stitches, which now puts me at 47.59%. So slowly itching closer to the 50% mark on this piece. And someone mentioned that is an incredible feat to get to 50% on Saga, which it does feel like that. In some ways I'm like, wow, I can't believe we're at 50% of this gigantic piece. And in other ways I'm like, oh my goodness, we still have 50% to go. So all the stitching that I already did, I have to do that again. But again, taking it in little chunks and little doses, and I do still really enjoy working on this. So that is the story of this arch and the 2 yurts being double booked. All right, and the final piece I've got for you this week is one that I didn't actually know I would work on, but just felt called to do this. So I pulled out Festive Frosted Pumpkin Cottage by the Witchy Stitcher. I will put a picture up here of what it looks like in the end, because I only have the digital pattern and I don't have a good picture to share. I will also put a video in here of where I was when I started this week. Okay, here's my starting point for Festive Frosted Pumpkin Cottage. I decided to pull this out since we are in the Halloween month and work on this a little bit. So I'm going to start by working on this little ghost right here. He's going to come all the way under this lamp post, and I'll probably continue working in this section here as long as Winston agrees with me. Do you agree, Winston? But yeah, you'll see it now. And somehow this just kind of became my focus piece for the week, and I just kept working on it. So I was able to get in 1,403 stitches, putting me at 84.01%, 84% on this piece. So I'm getting close to a finish. I did really enjoy this. However, I pulled it out because I was in the mood to stitch Halloween things, right? We're in October, everybody's stitching Halloween. It's just been so warm here in New York. Yesterday and today have still been in the 80-degree temperatures, and it just has felt weird stitching Halloween in such hot temperatures. However, I did it this week, so let's take a look at my progress now. So here is where I got to on this piece. This fabric is an 18 count from Oblong Meow called Witch's Brew. I think the fabric is still in their shop, but definitely go check them out on Etsy. They have a lot of wonderful, kind of loud, bright, wonderful dyed fabrics. So highly recommend. The Aida is very nice and soft too. I think this is coming across a little bit brighter than it is in the camera, but it's just beautiful in real life. So what did I work on this week? Well, I think the main section was right over here. So I think I had the 2 lampposts done, but I was able to add in all the back stitching there on the lampposts, which I think look really good. Hopefully you can see that clear enough. I added that little ghost and also the candles and the tombstones here at the bottom. I added this entire pumpkin snowman and did all the back stitching on him. I finished these windows here, did all the back stitching in the windows. I added this ghost and this window as well, did all the back stitching there. And I finished this candy cane, did all the back stitching around it, and added this candle here at the bottom as well. So I really do love how this piece is coming out. Now this is all stitched just with called for threads. So a few of the DMC are the called for, sorry, not called for, but stash threads. So all of the DMC some of the DMC are called for. What I'm trying to say, I can't get this out, is I switched a lot of these colors for things I had in stash. So the pumpkin is a Roxy Flosco called Tiger Lily, or the moon, I mean, and then the pumpkin is the same Tiger Lily. So I did sort of fussy cut this Tiger Lily to get kind of the darker and lighter parts. You'll see some of the darker areas of the pumpkin around the edges and then the lighter in the center. So I did try to fussy cut that a little bit. Same with the windows to get the lighter parts at the top and the darker at the bottom. There was some fussy cutting there as well. The greens are all color and cotton. I don't remember the colors, but I just kind of picked colors that I had in stash and could just grab and go when I started this. But I'm really liking how it comes across. The pumpkin in the actual image is much darker. So I think it's like a much brighter orange, kind of similar to these shades here in the moon. But I used the lighter colors in mine, and I think it turned out great. I think if I had done it again, I probably would do the back stitching with just 1 strand of 310 instead of 2 strands, because I think the back stitching kind of stands out a lot more than it needed to, but it's okay. I'm not taking it out. That was a lot of back stitching, and it's in there now, and I don't dislike it. I think it still looks good. It's just a little bolder than I would have wanted. But yeah, basically all this back stitching took a lot of time. I think it took maybe 4 or 5 hours just to do the back stitching on the lampposts, on the windows, on the pumpkin, snowman, on all these candles. There's like a line of back stitch there. But it does really make the piece come to life when you do that. I think the windows really look good with that, and I'm happy with it. So I think there's about 1,100 stitches left on this. So I am getting closer to a finish. The part that's left, I have to finish this house right here, obviously. And then this kind of goes into the Christmas tree. So there's a big Christmas tree with lights here. That will probably be a lot of, full coverage confetti stitching in that section. There's another candy cane that mirrors this one here on this side of the house. So I think that's the next piece that will kind of go in right here. And then there's 2 more lampposts on this side, and I think another pumpkin kind of on the ground here. So there is still more work to do, but I am nearing a finish. Now, again, I'm not pushing myself to finish this in October. So if I feel like pulling this back out again, I will. And if I don't feel like it, that's okay. Maybe it just sits for another year and maybe it comes out later or get a finish at some point. But who knows, as we get closer to Halloween, maybe I will feel more inclined to pull it back out and really push towards a finish. But that is my progress on Festive Frosted Pumpkin Cottage from the Witchy Stitcher. I'm super happy with it. I do love it on this fabric. I think it adds like an eerie, spooky kind of vibe to it. And yeah, that was my focus piece. All right, and that's all the stitching I've got to share with you this week. So let's jump into plans a little bit. So Whip Grow for October, I completed my goal for Stack of Pancakes. The other goal is Marvelous Circus from Amy Stewart. That's a Heaven and Earth Designs charted piece. That's my huge full coverage piece that I have not worked on in a while. That is called for 1,200 stitches. So I don't know if I'll get that out this week or if I'll push it back another week, but hopefully that will be coming. I will at least touch it. I don't know if I'll get 1,200 stitches, but I will at least put a good effort into it coming in this month. The other goal is my temperature stitching. So I'll put a picture up here of the chart for the new week. So Pop of Halloween was called for 4 days, so that will get 400 stitches, which will inch it very close to a finish. I don't think it will be a finish, but it will get very close. Then Stack of Pancakes was called for 2 days, so that will get 200 stitches, and Celtic Autumn only got 1 day, so she'll get 100 stitches, which might be a little bit more because she'll probably come out for an evening. So that is my plans with temperature stitching and Whipco. And apart from that, obviously Saga I'll continue working on, Whip into Shape I'll keep working on, and then it seems like what I've been doing is I've just been picking a piece and working on it for as long as I want, and it kind of becomes my focus piece for the week. So I don't know what that will be. Stay tuned for next week to come find out, I guess. All right, and the last thing I wanted to share with you is a little bit of stitchy kindness that I received this week from Dawn Marie. Now, Dawn Marie is DM's Crafty Vortex here on Flosstube and Instagram, and she had reached out and said, could I have your new address? I'd like to send you a housewarming present, which was so, so kind. She had a number of things that she let me actually choose what I would want, and what I chose was this kit she had for Summer Quakers from Rosewood Manor. Now this is with all the Valdani threads, which I've never used before, so that will be a fun adventure. And I've never stitched a Karen Kluba piece from Rosewood Manor, so that will also be fun. And I think the Summer Quaker design is really beautiful. It's a lot of fun colors, and yeah, so thank you so much, Dawn Marie. I really, really appreciate that. And this will not get started anytime soon, but maybe next summer, that will be a fun time to pull this out and get started. So I was really, really grateful for that. Thank you for sending it. And then she surprised me and sent me a project bag. Now, she claims that this project bag had some issues with it, but I don't see any issues. This is the bag, and it's a really big bag, which is awesome because that means I can fit like a Mirabilia or a Bella Filipina that comes with all the beads and all the flosses and everything, a large piece. Maybe even my chatelaine could go in here. But look at this fabric. Isn't that just so fun? The birds and the trees, the cats, the crow with the hat, the butterfly. It's just such a fun fabric. And then paired with this kind of glittery black at the top is beautiful. Like I said, it's a nice gigantic bag. And then inside is this beautiful kind of purpley wild fabric that I love. She also sent a little bag as well to match with that I can use for keeping my scissors or things in. So Dawn, this is beautiful, beautiful work, and I can't believe you just sent me this out of the kindness of your heart. that is so sweet. I can't wait to find the right project to put in there, and I absolutely love it. So thank you so much for that and for reaching out. And I think that's all I've got for you today. So I want to encourage all of you to try to stay positive. I know we've all got ups and downs. There's a lot going on in the world right now. But I encourage you just to find the joy in the simple things in life as you go throughout the day. That's been a focus for me. And, you know, we can do this one day at a time. And that's all we can do, one day at a time. So I think that's it. Keep running if you're a runner. Always keep stitching, and be kind to whoever you meet on your journey. Bye for now, until the next stitch.